Mario, the video game franchise that's really done it all. Spin-offs, movies, that time he got a tattoo. This Italian guy really has seen and done everything, and this includes invading the realm of horror. Now, obviously, Mario as a franchise hasn't officially done horror content. I mean, Luigi's Mansion was a little creepy at times. There was that one weird-ass face that appeared in 3D Land, and this thing was in Super Paper Mario, but we won't be talking about official stuff. We're going to be talking about the thing that Nintendo truly hates the most, fan games, specifically horror ones. Now, I actually took a look at the world of Mario horror games a little while back during the summer, in which I covered 5 different Mario horror games that I found intriguing. You don't have to go back and watch that video first to understand this one, but I highly recommend you check it out before or after this. So in honor for my hype for Super Mario Wonder dropping later this month, I want to revisit the topic and cover some games that I didn't know about before or didn't have time to talk about. I won't be going over the new findings on the Mario ROM hack because that's just a whole f***ing can of worms I'm not prepared for, and I won't be covering the RPG Mario the Music Box. That one's getting its own video in the future. Don't you worry, you die-hard music boxers out there. Unlike last video, I'm going to be taking a look at 6 different games, 3 creepypasta games and 3 ROM hacks. I'll make it nice and even. However, this would not be a Mario horror game video if I didn't talk about an EXE game. And oh boy, do I have one for you. The simply titled Mario.exe was created by Cool Rash all the way back in 2015, I think. This was a fairly big creepypasta game back in the day, at least compared to other Mario horror games out at the time. It was mostly an answer to the growing popularity of Sonic.exe, but let's be real, Sega does what Nintendo don't. Anyways, did this Mario.exe game age poorly, or is this secretly a hidden cult classic that will be talked about for years to come? It aged poorly. The game opens on the classic Super Mario Bros. Screen. It's good, but I really wish it had more blood everywhere. Oh, thank God. After selecting to play as Luigi, you go through the classic 1-1 level, but with the most janky controls ever. Listen, I'm not expecting perfection, but Luigi stops completely the second you stop pressing on the key. This was fine for this level, but it made later platforming kind of annoying. I mean, I shouldn't be too hard on this game. At least you could jump, unlike the original Sonic EXE, so at least it's got that going for it. Once you get to the end of the level, Mario EXE is waiting for you! He flashes his Snow White chompers at you and burns the castle to the ground, leaving all of the Toads to die horrible deaths. As a Toad enjoyer, what the hell, man, not cool. No time to mourn their loss though, because slow motion spikes start to fall from the ceiling. All you really gotta do is hold the right button and keep sprinting to escape. The next level has you underground, passing more dead Toads? Dude, I'm gonna crawl through my computer screen and beat your ass myself, I swear. You have to avoid these green mushrooms laid out on the ground. I would avoid touching them, because if you do, you get a little bit sick as a result. Brave the mushroom gauntlet and get to the end, where Mario throws a bunch of spikes at you. I'll be honest, this took me way longer than it should have to understand how to avoid the giant spikes coming towards you, but after the first 3 spikes get thrown, you just hold jump and you'll survive. This game just keeps hating on me though, because right after you avoid the spikes, a zombie Toad proceeds to attack you. After shedding a quick tear for what I knew I had to do, I killed the Toad and won. Mario says whatever the hell this is, and you now need to do some platforming. This is where that annoying part comes into play, as there's no momentum with your controls and everything feels so stiff, so your jumps end up feeling like they need to be timed perfectly and you need to follow through with every button press that you make. Also, some platforms are just unforgiving and you'll just slip right off of them. Also, I'm sure it's partially intentional, but whenever you jump, the screen moves with you to accommodate for that, making some platforms impossible to see, and you just have to take a leap of faith. Speaking of leap of faith, the devil appears and he just tells you to jump. Of course, I listen to him because he's such a nice guy, and I continue on. Now, I'll come clean. I've seen this game before, and I know that you're supposed to trust the devil the first time and then not trust him on the second one. I'm sorry, Satan. I lied to you. Anyway, to reach the end, you go back to the left, and Mario is waiting for you at a cliff with Peach. Peach sadly didn't see the cartoon banana peel on the ground and slipped right off the edge. After giving Mario the smoke and dodging his attack, you go to the right once more, only to be met with the loudest jump scare of all time. Did they need to make it 20 times louder than the rest of the game? Also, it was the FNAF jump scare sound, which makes it infinitely funnier. You reach the final level. You pass some gorgeous imagery of cats if they were blueberries, definitely not satanic symbols at all, and reach Mario at the end. Fortunately for us, he's just absolutely terrified of me and poofs away immediately. Well, Luigi, time to go home. I let him do that. And with that sneaky little red man killing Luigi, the game is finally over with the hardest game over screen of all time. Put this on an album cover, god damn. Mario.exe was a very, very basic EXE game, from the visuals to the formula to the scares. I mean, it was a very early entry in the EXE genre, so I mean, it's not totally inexcusable, but it just isn't a good game. I can't sugarcoat that. I do appreciate it for existing, and I mean, I can't say that for all games, that is for sure. So remember earlier when I compared this game to Sonic.exe? Well, when it comes to Mario horror games versus Sonic ones, I believe that Sonic could be argued to have better horror games, at least on the 2D side. However, recently I've discovered the world of Mario 64 ROM hacks, and holy shit, it blows Sonic out of the water on the 3D front. I pray to God nobody tries to make a Sonic Adventure horror game, because it just will not come close. So let's start with a smaller Mario 64 game titled Please Come to the Castle. Please Come to the Castle is a ROM hack created by Flake for the YouTuber SimpleFlip's ROM hacking competition. Also, I don't know where else I'm ever gonna say this, but my name is not a reference to SimpleFlips, but I'm glad he helped popularize the Bup meme. Otherwise, my parents wouldn't have ever legally named me Toad Bup. What, you think this is just a username? It boots up like normal Mario 64, except Mario must have slept in or something. The typical opening occurs, except Peach really wants us to come to the castle. Also, her eyes are missing, but don't worry about that. I would worry a lot more about Mario missing his eyes though. How did he even get here? Did he drive? I hope not. With Peach constantly asking for Mario in the background, you enter the castle to see a ghost Peach, wahoo your way to the end of the hallway, and you begin the actual gameplay. The first room here has you staring at a giant pair of Peach eyes, and you need to grab the key on the right side of the room to open the door on the left. Don't touch the TV static though, it slurps Mario right up. Avoid giant eyeballs and open the door into a new room. Peach is yoinked up into the sky and you climb a rope to chase after her. Next up, you need to find this cog so that you can open up this gate. To do this, you need to avoid being seen by this rotating eyeball. Thank God I'm known as the stealth champion on this channel. Avoid the eyeball's gaze by hiding behind some walls, grab the cog, and waddle on out of the room. To get to the next area, you also need to swim very fast across this small pool. Don't swim directly down like I did. I'm not sure why I did that, but I did. After taking your silly little swim, you finally reach the final area, which is a long, very difficult platforming segment. Now, if you're a fan of this channel, you know I am utterly horrible at Mario games, especially when it's on an Xbox controller with no left thumb grip. So, after many attempts of this level, I outsourced it to my buddy James. Everybody, please thank my buddy James in the comments by saying, "Thanks, buddy James." Giant rolling logs, fast switching platforms, conveyor belts, this area has it all. There's also a bunch of those TV static spots from earlier, which if you touch any of them, it's back to the start of the level. After much abuse of the save state system and lots more spinning logs in the air, you finally reach the end of the level, and the final platform you land on turns completely into static. You respawn in a cage with a giant eyeball looking on. The eyeball rushes you and the screen fades to black, leaving you with Peach staring at you and thanking you for, I assume, finally coming to the castle. The game also says sorry for being a short one. Yeah, it was. Surely it didn't take the combined effort of two men in the save state system to beat in over 2 hours. Maybe it's because it was something new to me, but I really enjoyed this Mario 64 ROM hack. One reason was because it was an actual game. There was various platforming and stealth segments that were fun and challenging. Another reason is because it didn't rely on blood and jump scares for the horror elements like other Mario horror games might. However, another Mario horror game that doesn't rely on blood and jump scares is none other than Dr. Mario.exe. Okay, there's jump scares, but there's not a drop of blood in sight, I swear. Dr. Mario.exe is a Dr. Mario horror game made by Randy Becker, a longtime creepypasta game developer who I actually talked about in length a long time ago. Do not watch that video though, I still used Vegas Pro back then, it was dark times. Anyways, this game's actually a 3D EXE game, something you don't see very often. You also never see Dr. Mario in horror games, so I was actually kind of intrigued by this game. The game starts with a short cutscene. You wake up under a bright light on some sort of hospital bed, and looking to your right, Dr. Mario appears to be looking away. And you should stop looking because he's gonna see you! And he saw you. Yep, you're dead. Good job, dumbass. After that horrifying incident, you wake up in what appears to be your room, and the game finally begins. Also, it takes a page out of Doom's book and doesn't let you look up or down. I mean, I don't need it, but it would have been a nice option. Walking outside, and I realized it wasn't your room you woke up in. That was your whole ass house. You live in an actual shed. Walk outside towards the giant hospital building and walk inside. This is Dr. Mario's hospital, or office, or something. It's his though, the desk says so. You're left to explore the abandoned building, and oh my god, it was so dark. I had to look through my OBS for most of it because it was actually brighter than my actual monitor. What you need to do here is find and activate a couple of these computers. Also, you find these cloning tanks that have what appear to be mutated viruses from the Dr. Mario games. They're just vibing though, they're not doing anything. When you activate the last computer, it tells you to leave now, as something appears to now be after you. Let me tell you, it sounded like it was so far away, but my dumbass turned one corner and this giant virus creature booked it right towards me. To escape, you need to avoid the giant virus by listening for where it's at. Knowing what's going on really helped, as after dying that first time, I was able to escape the next. When you leave the hospital, there's a very suspicious trail of brightly colored pills, but I'm a sucker for following trails of mysterious shiny objects, so I went along with it. Nothing really happens after this though, you can just go back to your house and go to bed. However, you then wake up in this weird void area with a bunch of floating items, which honestly looks pretty sick. Walking to the edge of this void, you find one last computer. Activate it, and you're now confined to that area. I'm embarrassed to admit that it took me a while to notice the giant floating Mario head coming towards me, which comes in closer more and more until you wake up once more in an even darker room. After walking along the walls, because that was the closest thing to a light source, Dr. Mario hit you with a jump scare, which honestly got me really good, because I'm squinting at my screen trying to see where I am, and this Italian motherfucker decides to pop up. Also, it's revealed that you were playing as Luigi all along. Poor Luigi, this dude's getting his ass kicked in every Mario horror game so far, I swear. When it comes to EXE games, this one was definitely good. Not only was it a different kind of game, being both 3D and being more than just a walking one direction simulator, but it had a more unique concept for a game like this. I mean, how many Dr. Mario horror games are there even out there? Dr. Mario's Lab? That Mario's never been to medical school. Nice try. Let's switch back from 3D to 2Ds. We talk about a Super Mario World ROM hack titled Eyeless. You won't f***ing believe what Mario's missing in this one. Created by Lol Yoshi on the SMW Central Forum, Eyeless is a ROM hack of Super Mario World where Mario is indeed eyeless. As soon as you boot into the game, you can jam out to some great Mario Paint music as you're given your objective: get your eyes back. The whole game has this black and white outlined aesthetic, which does a good job of representing the lack of sight that Mario has without just blacking out the whole screen. I feel like that would have made it a tad bit difficult. Besides some quiet music, there's no sound effects or anything. It really feels empty, like Mario's not only lost his sight, but his other senses as well. Onto the gameplay, it's a fairly standard Mario level. There is a few new gimmicks though, such as this disco strobe light that'll illuminate certain areas at a time, leaving you to not know what's in the darkness. You pass a bunch of boos, you pass a bunch of floating blocks that act like boos, it's pretty simple. There is one part that was a total pain in the ass, where you have to swim through this narrow tunnel that's got a scrolling black and white checkerboard background. You have to avoid both the snapping plant guys and these bullet bills, both of which tend to blend into the background. As the resident horrible Mario player, this took me like 20 minutes to beat, and it was like a minute long segment. After beating the gauntlet from hell, you take a small conveyor belt to an area with a door where you can find a completely black room. You're able to swim up, and after grabbing a mushroom, you enter one last door and nothing. So it turns out that there might be a problem with the emulator I'm using. The ROM just doesn't want to cooperate. But no matter what I tried, I couldn't get past this door. I knew this wasn't the end, it couldn't be, but it turns out I only missed like an extra minute of gameplay, so I'll just show you the rest from a video I found uploaded by Joytail on YouTube. After entering that last door, you now have another level including this strobe light. It's even more difficult this time because there's now enemies coming after you that blend into the darkness. After this, you could take a hit using that mushroom from earlier to enter a pipe, and you're now in a completely dark area. This time a message pops up saying you can't do that, eyes are lost forever. As sad music plays, Mario clears the course, and that's the end. You're left in a black void being unable to see forever. Bro should have just played Please Come to the Castle. There's like 80 eyeballs in that one. Although a bit short and possibly broken, I enjoyed Eyeless a lot. It had a great art direction and was challenging, but not so challenging that someone with a skill set like mine couldn't beat it. Great stuff. This next game is also a ROM hack, but this one's for Mario 64. Now, I was actually recommended this one quite a bit, and after playing, I could see why. This is a weird-ass game in the best way possible. B3313, also known as Super Mario 64 Internal Plexus, is a Mario 64 ROM hack created by Chris R. Lilo and his team. This game is just so, I don't even know how to put it. It's nutty, it's mind-boggling, it's so weird. So this ROM hack is inspired by the Mario 64's personalized myth, stating that every single copy of Mario 64 is personalized to the person playing it. This ROM hack specifically utilizes the Eternal Plexus concept prevalent in the myth. What Eternal Plexus means in this instant is that within Peach's castle, which is smaller on the outside, there lies hundreds of different doors, rooms, areas, everything you could imagine, all larger than the actual exterior of the castle. Basically, it's like this: tiny castle, big inside. A cool concept, but an even cooler execution. On top of the levels being completely different, this game is based on the beta of the original Mario 64, a popular style of ROM hack, especially when it comes to the Mario 64 personalized myth. You can see this when you boot up into the game and hear Mario sounding like Rayman. The courtyard scene is different too, as you spawn right in without a cutscene, and the text you see is in a different font and dubbed weird. I'm sorry, I don't trust anyone who says, "Welcome to Mario Wonderland." Also, you can switch to Luigi, which I think is neat. Anyways, the chaos begins the second you enter the castle. Everything seems sorta normal at first. Sure, it's a little off, but not too off from the classic game. I did think it was weird that you could enter doors with a star limit on them, with 0 stars, but that ended up probably being the most normal thing in this game. Now, I've played a pretty good amount of this ROM hack, and I've come to the conclusion that I would lose my mind trying to talk about this game chronologically, so I'll just try my absolute best to describe this game and my experience. I highly recommend you play this for yourself, because this game is just too complex and goofy to completely appreciate from a simple YouTube video. The best way to describe this hack, especially not knowing what you're doing, is that you're almost never in the same place twice. Let me tell you about my experience. I entered the castle for the first time and died in this level. I thought I'd spawn back in the castle's lobby, but nope, I'm in a red ghost room with new paintings. Enter a new level and beat it, now I'm in some random ass stone hallway with Bowser's picture everywhere. I think I'm back in the castle lobby? Nope, it's a completely identical copy with different levels. You see what I mean? It's why I recommend playing it for yourself. The pure chaos of never really knowing where you are is amazing. And even if you feel like you've explored an entire area, every nook and cranny might have a secret for you to explore. For instance, I opened just a seemingly random door like every other door in this game, and all of a sudden there's a dark red room with an eyeless Mario in the center, who then proceeds to scare the shit out of me and attack me at 3 frames per second. Now, according to research I did, there's apparently 100 different areas to explore, but unless you play this game for hours and hours on end, it truly feels like a random infinite Mario game, and that is incredible. The levels themselves are also pretty neat, as most of them are just off versions of pre-existing levels, but just eerie and well made enough to be different. Bob-omb Battlefield turns into this more empty, grassy level with only a giant tower in the middle. Cool Mountain becomes a desolate, snowy area with the only other entity being the penguin. The Bowser fight is blue. Truly some crazy changes. There's also completely new levels as well, like this town that's inhabited by these yellow Bob-ombs, and a lot of creepy ass areas, like this weird stone maze in the courtyard, or this red corridor that turned into the Ella's Real fountain. I haven't really mentioned it yet, but this is a horror game, at least I count it as one. The horror, or I guess creepiness, of B3313 comes from the whole feel of the game. Everything is just so creepy and off, and you could just never guess what's gonna happen next, like a bunch of fucking Marios attacking you. Especially as a Mario 64 fan, noticing a bunch of changes to things from the game, both huge and little, is really cool. I think that this ROM hack does the whole Mario 64 personalized thing the best, because it really does feel like it's being personalized around you, like it grows more and more as you play. Also, it randomly gave me 6 stars and took my hat away for no reason, so I mean, is that really supposed to happen? Or did the game just personalize itself to troll me? I absolutely cannot do this ROM hack enough justice. I'm begging you to go and play this for yourself. The crazy, almost maze-like connection of the levels, the horror elements sprinkled all around, the impressive amount of content jammed into a single Mario ROM hack, this is honestly one of the best Mario fan games I have ever played. That game was great and all, but what about a horror game where your dead sister is Luigi? Left Behind is a Mario creepypasta game made by White Void, the same developer behind Crucius Mortem, another solid Mario horror game that I played in the previous video, so this person does know what they're doing. Will this game be good or will it be left behind? Booting up the game, you actually get to choose a difficulty. Now, I'm no wuss, but I'm also lazy, so I just went right down the middle. This game takes the aesthetic of a classic 16-bit Mario game people could never forget about playing back in the day. Of course, I'm talking about Super Mario Flash. After choosing single player, because God forbid the game let me play with another person, the game starts. It's the usual level 1-1, but something scary happens. At least this time when it happens, innocent lives aren't lost. Anyways, the question blocks disappear, the enemies disappear, the music stops, and it gets a little glitchy. Text appears asking if you've already forgotten me, as Luigi appears out of nowhere. The sky then turns to black as you walk past the flagpole and glitch into more text. This time it says, "Let's play Thommy." Who the hell is named Thommy? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the name Mario is now replaced with Thomas. Did I miss a Mario spinoff or something? Who's Thomas? You now have to navigate a dark grassy area with pipes everywhere. You've got infinite lives, so if you make dumb jumps like me, you'll be fine. Eventually, you run into someone hiding in a pipe who disappears before you can see who they are. No time for that though, because Luigi hits you with that Brooklyn plumber stare before a chase scene begins. After a quick chase scene with the bloody-eyed Luigi, you'll eventually hit a bridge that breaks away when you step on it. This leads you into the next part of the game, where you're in this dark underground castle area and need to find 3 objects to progress. What are these objects, you ask? Nothing crazy, just the severed body parts of a child. There are 3 parts, each one on different parts of the map. As soon as you grab one, you need to run from Luigi and find one of these plant thingies to hide behind. Thank God Luigi has 0 object permanence and will disappear as soon as you hide behind a plant, no matter how close he is. The normal difficulty makes Luigi a bit faster and allows 1 mushroom, so you really gotta know your escape route after grabbing the part, because Luigi will haul ass towards you. Get caught and thankfully it isn't back to the beginning, just back to the last part you got. You'll also need to find a key to access a certain part of the level and hit a button to activate some transparent blocks. Once you've acquired all 3 parts, you could go to this giant Super Nintendo attached to the wall and claim a purple key. After this, jump down a pit to find the final area. All that's left now is to hit another block switch, and the statue is Luigi. The statue is Luigi! One last chase scene from the green man, and you finally make it into a new area. This is where the story begins to make sense if it didn't already. Not only do you get these quick flashes of what appears to be someone holding on for life and then letting go, but you also get a better look at the monster more clearly. The one who's been controlling Luigi is actually the one you've been collecting the parts of. It's Sophie, as hinted by the S on Luigi's hat and the entire game, because it's pretty obvious. So basically you play as Sophie's brother Thomas, who I guess let his sister die on purpose or accident? I don't know. Anyway, Sophie's pissed and I guess decides to mess with her brother through a Mario game for some reason? I mean, that's one way to do it. You finally make it to the end of the wavy cave area where Sophie is being a sore loser about you living, I guess. I mean, I'm assuming it was an accident, so why be so harsh on Thomas? Poor dude just wants to play Mario. Anyways, you're now in this foggy outside area where after making it to the end of the level, there's a pit with Sophie's corpse at the bottom. Luigi, or I guess Sophie, slowly approaches you from behind and hits you with the classic Luigi clothesline, killing you and ending the game with one last jump scare. I do love that when Luigi kills you, it just plays the Mario death sound effect. Kinda silly if you ask me. Oh, also, after writing this portion of the video, I found out that there's actually a secret red key you can get, which lets you play a level as Sophie, who wanders through this glitchy area wondering who she is and what's going on. Also, it's revealed through a series of text and images that Thomas actually did let her die on purpose, and I guess never loved her in the first place, so you know what? Forget what I said before. Do not let that poor dude play Mario. I enjoyed this game. For one, it had actually good gameplay, can't say that for a lot of other creepypasta games, and the sprite art and music were both pretty well done. Big shout out to White Void, that is 2 banger Mario horror games in a row. Now make one about Boshi. I like Boshi. And those were the Mario horror games I wanted to discuss. A pretty good bunch of games. However, I don't think anything's ever gonna beat the plot twist of your sister being Luigi. One thing people might not realize is that a lot of these Mario horror games would work so well on their own, even without the Mario theming. I think Markiplier said it best at the end of his Sonic EYX video. You could take these recognizable characters out of some of these creepypasta games and they would still be solid horror games. Some people never give these kinds of games a chance, and I mean, I get that, the original Sonic EXE was horrendous. However, these developers put in so much time and effort, probably, and these games deserve recognition, no matter what the stigma behind creepypasta games in current days is. I will admit though, I'm a little burnt out on EXE games. If I have to see one more bloody-eyed Luigi, I will lose my mind. Make it Boshi or something, please. No more of this baby creepypasta junk. Let's play a real man's horror game with the poop killer. Don't worry though, if you didn't like the first one, there's 7 more from where that came from.
Makes you feel alive.